Hi folks, Aaron here, and welcome back to another anime review. Today we're looking at episode 3 of Violet Evergarden. You know, what's funny about this show is that it does a lot of things correct. It really does. In terms of emotion, pure emotion, this week's episode was very, very strong. It really almost actually made me tear up at one point. You know, we see, I think, a different character's backstory. Her name's Lucia. And we see how the war affected her and her brother, for example, where, you know, her brother apparently was stationed in the war, but the thing was he didn't really see it in combat. And lo and behold, you know, he felt like he was kind of useless during the war. But what's worse is that at one point, the parents went off to go during to do a trade agreement and were killed when the war broke out in that section of where they went to. And, you know, the brother felt like he was useless to try to even stop them or even help them or save them for that matter. And you see him now, like he's getting drunk. He's got like a pot belly. He's I think injured himself. He gets into a lot of fights, etc. And that's caused Lucia to deal with a lot of drama. And you see that Violet, I think, genuinely is starting to finally understand other humans a little bit more, because she then writes a letter, very short letter, mind you, but it's a letter nonetheless, addressed to the brother, delivers it to him personally, and it causes this realization that yes, she's getting there. You know, 3 episodes in, Violet's already beginning to break that kind of weird, I want to say, almost doll-like emotions she has, and actually is now finally becoming something so much more. You know, because as we see in this episode, she goes to school. She's got top marks. She's one of the fastest typists. She types with accuracy, etc. But lo and behold, because she doesn't really understand human emotions, when she types a letter, when they were doing the transcript section, she typed it like a robot. And that's because Violet is a robot in many ways. You know, she might not be a physical robot or an actual legit robot, but because she's been, I want to say, dressed for war her whole life, that's her only mindset. Now, that's probably the only issue I'm having with Violet Evergarden right now, though. And again, it's not that, you know, I'm telling people this right now, and I know some people flip out right away when you say this, because it's like, oh, you don't understand this, or it's like, listen, I get the whole premise behind Violet Evergarden, trust me. You know, it's not that I have issues with the slice of life elements or the slow pacing of it, or, you know, the repeated things of Violet's past, etc. It's just that 3 episodes in, we're still seeing that. And that's a warning to me, because, you know, as great as the emotions are in this show, I'm noticing a trend of things being said over and over again. For example, Violet has once again told Lucia in this case, you know, oh, she wants to be a auto-memoir doll because she wants to learn what I love you means. We get that by this point. We know that Lucia doesn't get that, obviously, but to constantly hear her tell that story to people, it's a little annoying and tedious. And, you know, I know people are right away going to make in the comments, please, you know, if you're going to put in the comments, please have an actual defense for this, but, you know, because I know people who, like, I can tell who watches the video all the way through and who doesn't, but, you know, the fact that she goes and says this all the time, I understand that it's, again, going with her robotic nature, that, like I just said before, one of the strengths of the show is seeing Violet kind of break out of that, but the same token, it makes for repetitive dialogue, you know. I love the music. I love the animation. I love how, even the opening, by the way, was really well. Before we finally heard the opening, it was so nice. I enjoyed it 100%. I thought it was a great opening. It fit the whole show's mood and way of being. But, you know, every scene is made stronger because of the music, for example, and the animations. But when they start repeating dialogue, even the strong moments that you have feel a little bit like, oh, I've heard that before. Or, oh, yeah, we've heard that before, too. It rinses and repeats its nature, and that's the thing about Violet Evergarden. That, remember, this is, I believe, a decently long show. If they keep doing this every episode up to a certain degree, you're gonna have people that turn away, because certain people are not gonna see that aspect of what is trying to be conveyed, and that makes for a show that's repetitive. Imagine every day hearing the same story from someone you know, or, you know, being told the same story from someone you care about. You know, you of course would see past it, but eventually you would be like, oh, I've heard the story before, or I know the story before, or I've heard it told this way before. It loses the same impact. When we first heard Violet talk about, you know, oh, I want to learn what I love you means, do you remember the reaction you had? It's like, oh my god, that's so nice. That's so, you know, it's so beautiful in its own right, because, you know, you've seen this girl who's been war-torn, you know, who's been just trained only for military, finally go and say, I want to learn something about real life. I want to learn an emotion that is probably one of the hardest emotions to convey, in human thought, and just even by words, but even just by actions alone. And it makes for a nice impact when you first heard it. Even the second time, you're like, oh, that's sweet. But imagine now hearing that 8 or 9 times in the course of the show, and you're gonna get tired of it. Trust me, it's gonna lose that impact that it had when the first couple times you heard it. So that's why I'm saying, like, I hope that this doesn't become a kind of usual thing with this. I also feel this week's episode was kind of almost like a slideshow sometimes, where we had scenes just happen. We had one scene happen, then this scene happened, and this scene happened. Perfect example is when Lucia was talking to Violet near the graduation thing, for example, where we had her, we know Lucia passed graduation, but Violet did not initially. Later on, she would go and pass the class, obviously. But during that sequence, nearing her, the time that where Violet actually passes, we have this thing where we have her talking, then we have her in class, then we have her passing the class. And I'm like, what happened in between? Like, did she start, I don't understand that. There was also scenes like that in the beginning part where we had characters just appear, and this happened, and this happened. It's just, like where it worked, for example, perfect scene was when Lucia's talking about her brother, and you see him getting into a fight. That was perfect. That was awesome, because it's nice flow to it. Other scenes of this stuff felt like they were kind of just rushing through it, trying to get to key points in the actual story, before the episode timer ran out. That's why, it's scares me, because I love Violet Evergarden right now, but I could also see myself feeling that the show gets weaker as the series progresses. And whether you want to believe that or not, think about that really hard for a second, that slice of life anime in general are made it broken by how they execute that slice of life nature. A show can only throw so many emotions at you at once, but it has to do it in different ways to keep you invested and keep you interested. Like, for example, like Spice and Wolf, shows like that. From every episode, for the most part, maybe exception to maybe 1 or 2 episodes here and there, you always feel like something's different happening. You feel like it's a full story that's going on and continuing, and you're still meeting new characters, you're still getting new concepts, but it doesn't really feel like it's repeating anything. It might be repeating the nature of what's happening, because, they're going from town to town, etc., for that matter, but it feels like every episode's a different story. It feels like something new is happening, and even though they might repeat certain things here and there, they don't do it every episode. Violet Evergarden so far for 3 episodes has repeated a lot of the same things, and that's why it scares me when we get to episode 5 or 6 or even 10 for that matter. What will it be doing? Will it be still doing this? Are we going to see Violet finally change to a whole different character? I'm curious. But, I really do love this show so far. I want people to understand that, because I feel like, you think I may be bad-mouthing it because I'm saying, oh, I'm like nitpicking this or that, but it's my job as a reviewer. I have to look at it and not nitpick it per se, but talk about what I'm scared about, because we are 3 episodes in. This is the part where most people drop the shows that they feel like have issues. I wouldn't drop this show in a heartbeat. Like, this show is great. You shouldn't drop this at all. But, it's understandable why some people might be afraid, because it's monotonous right now. And even though we're getting some great stories, I want to see other stories. I want to see our characters go through stories. I want to learn more about the war. I think that the war is probably one of the best things about the show. I want to see what happened in it. What was the big concepts of it, what caused it in the first place, etc. Those are things I want to see. But let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about this week's episode. I would love to hear from you. Please be respectful. I've had a few comments with my newer shows recently where some people have been less than respectful, and the thing is that, for example, like my Junji Ito reviews, I've had a few people choice words with them where they clearly have saw some of the review up to the point that I said something, but then stopped, and then just went off and started typing away. It's like, watch the whole review first before you do that, But anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Have a great, blessed night, everyone. God bless you all. If you liked this review, which I hope you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video around it, talk, and comment, like I said before. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.